Am I the idiot for refusing to kick my cousin even though I raised her as my daughter? I, 29, live with my pregnant fiancée, Sarah, 27, and my cousin, Mira, 18. To make a long story short, I've basically raised Mira myself since she was 4 and I was 15. Her parents are extremely negligent, and when I was 20, she ended up basically moving in with me. While she calls me by name and calls me her cousin, for all intents and purposes we have a father-daughter relationship. Mira is obviously important to me. She didn't get along with Sarah at first. I think she just hated sharing my attention. But I thought they get along well now. Sarah and I have discussed Mira and her situation. While I knew Sarah thought independence is better, I personally think it's better for her to stay here while she goes to university. A few days ago, Mira came up to me crying and apologizing. She basically said she was sorry for being a burden and hurting me, for not realizing how I felt, and that she would move out and everything. I had no idea what was going on, and when I managed to calm her down, she basically told me that Sarah had talked to her. Apparently she told her that she's old enough to move out and stop being a burden on me, that she needs to stop taking advantage of my kindness. I got pretty pissed and reassured Mira that I love her and wouldn't kick her out or anything. I was furious and argued with Sarah about it. Apparently she thinks I'm letting Mira take advantage of me, that she's old enough to be independent. She thinks it's such an issue that Mira has been referring to the baby as her little sister, that she's my cousin, and I have an actual daughter coming, so I can't keep coddling her. Basically, she thinks I'm spoiling her with all this, which is ridiculous. That she did it this way because I left her no choice. The whole just a cousin has really pissed me off. Even if not by blood, she is my daughter. I raised her and love her. Sure, I spend a lot of time and money and whatnot on her, but I would do that for any child I had. Our argument went terribly. I don't understand how she can see Moira as some leech I need to stand up to, and that she did what had to be done. Mira was really happy I didn't feel that way, and obviously hates Sarah now. Sarah and most of my in-laws obviously say she's right and I need to have appropriate boundaries. Our friends mostly agree with Sarah. Even my best friend basically told me that Sarah's right when I vented. Apparently I basically forgot my place and it's unhealthy. I really don't agree with them. But having so many disagree, especially my best friend, is giving me doubts. I want what's best for Mira, and while I personally want her to stay, if it is actually unhealthy, maybe Sarah would be right. Sarah definitely went the wrong way, but maybe I was wrong to not take some of the worries seriously. Not the idiot. Mira is in university. It's great that you're willing to let her live at home so she can get an education and hopefully not graduate with an overwhelming pile of debt. As long as she's in school and working towards supporting herself, that's a young adult worth subsidizing. I find it odd that you know Sarah well enough to marry her but had no clue how she felt about Mira or that she would go behind your back that way. I hate to tell you, but you knocked up the wrong person. Update. It's been a big month for us. It's not perfect, but we're all trying to work it out, and 3 weeks ago started therapy for me, Mira, and Sarah. It's been helpful, but still early. My friends just don't see her as my daughter, which seems to be why they agreed with Sarah. While therapy may change our minds, for now Sarah and I agreed to forgive and work together, and Mira will likely stay. Sarah maintains her issue is independence, though the therapist has suggested her worries for the baby and resentment for Mira's original hate is influencing her behavior over it, like some people said. On that note, Mira isn't happy I'm trying to forgive her, but I've made it clear that she has to take it out with me, not Sarah. It's still awkward between them obviously, but I think Mira's excitement for the baby is winning because she's getting less aggressive about her hate. I think with some time she'll be able to accept Sarah's apology. Also, to make it final, I talked to Mira about adult adoption. She was really happy and jumped at the idea. While she won't call me dad, I think this will help solidify our relationship. The therapist likes the idea and I'm seeing a lawyer so we can file a SAP. Also, some clarification. 1. A few people said Mira may be manipulating me. Sarah never denied what she said, she defended it. 2. I have more than enough money to support Mira, the baby, and save. Helping with expensive things meant her car, laptop, old phone, textbooks, etc. being necessary and expensive. We agreed she would save half, and I'd cover the rest. 3. After talking to my best friend more, his stance is that my fiancé is more important than a cousin. That I forgot Mira is just a cousin, and will never be my kid. I fundamentally disagree. 4. I never explicitly called her my daughter, because she didn't. However, I said I was parenting her, and we did Father's Day and everything father-daughter related. Planning a day for my little girl is pretty explicit. 5. More detailed history. At 15 I was living with my aunt and uncle because my mother's partner refused to let kids in his apartment. I basically did all the parenting for Mira. I would feed her, bathe her, clothe her, comfort her, play, etc. At 20 she stayed with me for babysitting until they wanted her back. In practice she stayed with me 5 or 6 days a week, then 6 or 7, then aside from special occasions. While her parents used to pay for major expenses, I did all the real parenting. 6. A lot of people find Mira's original treatment of Sarah a gotcha. It was literal years ago, and not exactly unprecedented for bio kids. I actively put a stop to it, and she would be punished when she was particularly bad. I thought their relationship was now good, so was Mira. She genuinely came to love her, and saw her like an aunt. There was a whole issue over her being overexcited about the baby. There wasn't continued hostility. Not the idiot. You're a great father to Mira. Don't listen to anyone else's BS, including your friend. I'd stop talking to them, but that's just me. Counseling is definitely helpful, and hopefully things will work out from here. However, I'd tread carefully and keep an eye on Sarah and Mira. Make sure this does not happen again, and you will leave Sarah if it does. Cause if it happens again, I can guarantee it won't get better, especially when the baby arrives. Not the idiot. If you have helped raise Mira since you were about 15, I don't understand how these friends of yours are taking this stance. Mira was there first and is under your protection. I'm glad that there's counseling going on, but please keep in mind that Mira's feelings about Sarah are valid. Mira was made to feel as a burden. Those feelings don't go away quickly and can take years. Do you think you will have to choose wife and baby or cousin? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I the idiot for reducing the money I am willing to give to my stepdaughter for college? I had a pretty wild youth and one of the women I slept with got pregnant. She didn't inform me about this and I was oblivious of my biological son until about a year ago. He is 17 years old. I have since become a bit saner and am happily married for 14 years. She has a daughter from a previous relationship who is 18. They will both be going to college next year. We had talked about this when she was in. I had told her I would surely chip in about 30 Kelvin. Her grandparents from her dad's side are also willing to contribute money. Last year I told her that I may be able to contribute 40K, but it was not a guarantee. This is a lot of money, but it took me a long time to save it. My son has not enjoyed a comfortable upbringing. He has no support and his mother is not in a financial position to pay for college. I want to contribute about 15K. We are running a pretty tight ship and I don't think we can make any more cuts without it affecting our retirement savings. I told my stepdaughter that I would only be able to contribute 30K. She was okay with it before she found out we were also giving money to my son. She is very angry with me and she is being distant, more than usual. I think what I don't get is that it won't hurt her. Her grandparents are willing to make up the difference. She is going to have the same budget that she can plan to spend on college. I feel a bit like an idiot as I am giving her the minimum amount possible, which I had agreed on. I wish I could do more, but I can't. I don't get why she is upset. I think I am making the right decision here, but I know I have upset her and it is bothering me. My wife is not happy about it, but she is understanding. Not the idiot. She is upset because you have another child taking your attention and money. It's irrational, but she will be upset and quietly jealous. This kid you didn't know about is suddenly dropped into your family's laps, and this is the first of many big steps that's going to be affected by one more person in the mix. She's seeing you give the extra you told her you would try to do to her replacement. You are by no way the idiot supporting all your kids, but talk to people first. Update. I saw that I was not the idiot from the comments, but I did disagree with a few which stated that I had no obligation to pay for her education. I feel like I have an obligation to her and my wife to take care of them. I did see some comments about splitting it equally, but I think it is not fair to my stepdaughter to break the promise I had made, as she would have to change her plans if I did that. I found comments from people who have gone through similar situation very insightful and helpful. I didn't need to speak to her as she apologized for making a big deal out of when she knew she was going to get money from her grandparents. I accepted her apology and I left it there, as I felt I shouldn't try to pry when she was taking a huge step by apologizing for her mistake. We watched the Euro final together. We are both huge soccer fans and she made some comments about if I wanted my son there, which I ignored as I felt it was coming from a place of hurt and she was poking fun at me and not my son. It is true that I am less cautious when interacting with my son. It is not because I don't think of her as my daughter, but due to our relationship suffering every time I tried to play the role of her father. I didn't want to disrespect the memory of her dad, and our relationship improved a lot when I stopped trying to spend time with her or dad her as she told me. I think I made a huge mistake with this. I didn't ever renegotiate the implied line that was drawn early in her teenage years because I was scared of hurting her and myself. I was a coward. I drove her to her grandparents this week and it was mostly just driving in silence, but I did bring up that she would get to play soccer again and I hoped I could attend more matches this school year. She smiled and nodded and said that she would like that. We then talked about football for most of the drive back. It was nice. I think we used to do this often. It also struck me that she plays the same position that I used to play, which made me a bit emotional. My wife has suggested that we both think about family counseling. My daughter wants to do it too. Yeah, probably need to budget for that, but I think it will be worth it. Not the idiot. After reading up on your situation, although I get your stepdaughter is likely feeling jealous, I just hope your son, who hasn't had a dad or any good financial support, isn't being looked over by a kid who has been supported and loved just because she's jealous. I think you've done what you can do for this kid and that counseling is a possible option. Not the idiot. Wow, lots of hate for a man who is giving his money to a stepdaughter and a son whose existence was kept a secret from him until a year ago. I don't get this at all. Maybe mostly because I'm from England, where nearly all university students get out loans to pay for all of their studies. I'd never expect my family to pay for that. Opus, I think you sound like a great guy. Is he wrong for giving his son some money? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I the idiot for refusing to take my toddler to visit my in-laws? Husband and I have a young toddler, 15 months old. We live out of state from both of our families, who are also far from each other, a 5-hour drive. Neither of our families live very close to a large airport, about 3 hours for my family and 2 for him. For context, my family adores my husband's. His family hates me and I don't like them either. The reasons they hate me aren't important. Just know that it's nothing I've done. There are certain unchangeable things about me that they hate, and they were against us being together as soon as they found out. Since establishing boundaries and getting married they have calmed down, but they still avoid speaking or making eye contact with me. Now we have a toddler and I'm planning a trip to visit my parents for an upcoming holiday. We're also planning to tour the area because we're considering moving there next year. I've done all the legwork to plan the trip. My husband wants to visit his family as part of the trip, but I refuse. My main reasons are, it's way too long of a car ride with how young kiddo is. It's already enough traveling and stress just getting out there. Second, they don't do anything for our kid. Multiple members of my immediate and extended family have visited at least once and stepped in to help with childcare gaps even though they are all a flight away. So part of the purpose of this trip is for us to be the ones going to visit instead of them always coming to us. Husband's family has never met kiddo and have only done 2 video calls, although they have sent some small gifts. Third, we'd have to take more time off of work to fit it in. My husband is pissed and thinks I'm trying to deny his family a relationship with our kid. I've extended an open invitation for them to visit, but so far they haven't. There's no financial burden on their side, they just give semi-plausible excuses. They counter with an offer to take kiddo for a few years so we can focus on our careers and kiddo can learn their language. That's a hard no from us. I offered to meet them for a day or 2 in the major airport city. They go there all the time, since we have to go back anyway, but that's not good enough either. Apparently we have to go to them and can't expect them to accommodate us because they just won't do it. So if I want them to meet kiddo we have to do all of the work. But I don't really care if they meet kiddo or not, after all they've put me through. It's not my job to make sure that happens. I think if the husband wants them to meet kiddo then he needs to plan his own trip and coordinate with them, not tack onto what I'm already planning. My husband thinks it's ridiculous to expect him to plan another trip when we're already going to be out there, even though it's not exactly close, and that I'm not considering his feelings. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You do have a marriage issue though, and a family issue. The offer to take the child for a few years to allow you to focus on your career suggests that his family is a certain ethnic group to me, and that you likely are not that same ethnic group. That is why they refuse to have anything to do with you. You need to make absolutely certain that you are present on any visit between your child and your husband's family. You don't want the child left with them, and your partner needs backup to say no. You also need to watch the interaction and make certain that they are welcoming to the child, and don't discriminate based on ethnicity. I hope I'm wrong, but I've seen it too many times. Good luck. Update. In the end I stood my ground. We will not be visiting my in-laws for this trip or at all in the near future. It definitely got a bit heated, but logically it just didn't make any sense to visit my in-laws. We'd be about 5 hours away by car. We'd have to rent a car to see them. We'd have to pay for a hotel because they don't want me in their house, and they don't even celebrate this holiday. I also recently started a new job and don't have much PTO banked up. What little I do have I need for the short holiday trip and then our big move in spring. I laid all this out to my husband and asked him how we would resolve these issues, and he didn't have an answer. I can't magically get more PTO. Neither one of us wants to add 10+ hours of driving onto a trip that already has a cross-country flight or pay for a hotel, car rental. And frankly our parents do not live near each other even though it might be in the same region. Think one lives in NYC, the other in Buffalo, NY. Yeah, it's the same state but it's not close at all, so this expectation that when we see one we have to see both has to stop. A few weeks later we talked about it again in the context of us moving closer, still 5 minutes 6-hour drive, and I laid out for him that I'm simply not willing to go so far out of my way to make sure my in-laws have a relationship with our kid. They're racist. They were terrible parents to all of their kids, but especially abusive to my husband. They're already playing favorites. Read Golden Child and Scapegoat with their other grandkids, and I'm not going to move heaven and earth to have the idea of a family with them. My husband has come a long way in not jumping every time they snap their fingers, but this was something he struggled with. I completely understand that he wants to have the same experience that I have had, of showing my kid off to my family, watching the bonds develop, etc., but in reality it just won't happen for his family. They don't care about him very much, never call or send a gift for his birthday even though he spends a lot of money on them for their holidays and birthdays. They still have no plans to come visit our kid and haven't done a video call in 6 months. In the more than 10 years we've been together, not once have they come to us. So we're dropping the rope. The husband is free to have whatever relationship he's comfortable with, but we aren't going to be putting in any extra effort right now unless something changes. I hope this helps other people in multiracial relationships see how things might turn out. Your in-laws may never come around and you have to decide if it's worth it to you. For me it is, but it's not without conflict at times. Not the idiot. So glad you were able to talk about all of this with your husband. All the "you're the idiot" comments in your original post blew my mind for exactly the reasons you detailed above. They're horribly racist and literally hid in the car in the snow so they wouldn't have to be in the same house as you. Absolutely wild that anyone would see that as not a big deal that you should just get over. Not the idiot. If your husband isn't against therapy, he needs to start it. It took me a long time to unlearn my family's toxic thought patterns.